This video, and the next to come, Gentile pagan empires of the past. Audio number 13. Is on the history of the book of Daniel. Daniel is a prophetic book, and much of the content should be understood before you can understand the book of Revelation. Daniel had dreams of his future, and he had dreams of our past. He also had visions of our future. Therefore, these two videos, number 12 and number 13, must be understood before you can understand the book of Revelation. The book of Daniel and the book of Revelation are a team, so to speak, that we may know what to expect throughout the time of the end. We are near the end of the audio Bible study series, Book 1. The Overcomers. Adam to Jesus. The following audio-video Bible series that follow are from the book series. The Overcomers. Jesus to Revelation. The book, Jesus to Revelation, will explain everything from the tribulation to the Great Tribulation, to the new earth. That being said, now let's begin the audio lesson for number 12. In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon came to Jerusalem and besieged it, and the Lord gave Jehoiakim king of Judah into his hand, with some of the articles of the house God, which he carried into the land of Shinar to the house of his God, and he brought the articles into the treasure house of his God. Then the king instructed Ashpenaz, the master of his eunuchs, to bring some of the children of Israel, some of the king's descendants, and some of the nobles, young men in whom there was no blemish, but good-looking, gifted in all wisdom, possessing knowledge and quick to understand, who has ability to serve in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the language and literature of the Chaldeans. They were to be trained for 3 years and given daily provision of the king's delicacies and of the wine which he drank, so that at the end of that time they might serve before the king. Among those of the children of Judah chosen were Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. They did not defile themselves with the king's delicacies and wine, because truly from the heart, they wanted to obey the Lord God of Israel. Therefore, the Lord brought Daniel into the favor and goodwill of the chief of the eunuchs and allowed them to be tested for 10 days only to eat vegetables and to drink water. It was after the 10 days testing, the eunuch examined their appearance, and their features appeared better and fatter in flesh than all the young men who ate the king's delicacies and drunk his wine. As for these 4 young men, God gave them knowledge and skill in all literature and wisdom, and Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams. Now at the end of the 3 years, when the king had said that they should be brought in, the chief of the eunuchs brought them in before Nebuchadnezzar. Then he interviewed them, and among them all none was found like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, therefore, they served before the king. In all matters of wisdom and understanding about which the king examined them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and astrologers who were in all his realm. Thus, Daniel continued to serve as counselor to the king and held his position until the end of the Babylonian Empire and the beginning of the 1st year of King Cyrus in 539 BC, the Medo-Persian Empire. In the 2nd year of Nebuchadnezzar's reign, he had dreams, and his spirit was so troubled that his sleep left him. Then he gave the command to call the magicians, astrologers, sorcerers, and the Chaldeans to tell him his dream along with its interpretation. They came and stood before him, however, none of them could tell the dream, let alone the interpretation that the king requested, or to answer the king. And there was not a man on earth who can tell the king's matter, therefore, no king, lord, or ruler has ever asked such things of any magician, astrologer, or Chaldean. One wise man said, "It is a difficult thing that the king requests, and there is no other who can tell it to the king except the gods, whose dwelling is not with flesh." Now it was for this reason the king was angry and very furious with Chaldeans and gave the command to destroy all the wise men, and they sought Daniel and his companions, to kill them. It was when Daniel heard the news, it was with counsel and wisdom Daniel sought Arioch, the captain of the king's guard, who had gone out to kill the wise men of Babylon, and when he found him, he asked Arioch, why was the decree from the king so urgent? Then Arioch made the decision known to Daniel. So, Daniel went in and asked the king to give him time, so that he might tell the king the interpretation. Then Daniel went to his house, and made the decision known to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, his companions, that they might seek mercies from the God of heaven concerning this secret, so that Daniel and his companions might not perish with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. Then the secret was revealed to Daniel in a night vision, and Daniel blessed the God of heaven. Blessed be the name of God forever and ever, for wisdom and might are his, and he changes the times and the seasons, he removes kings and raises up kings, he gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to those who have understanding. He reveals deep and secret things, he knows what is in the darkness, and light dwells with him. I thank you and praise you, O God of my fathers, you have given me wisdom and might and have now made known to me what we asked of you, for you have made known to us the king's demand. Daniel goes to explain the dream to Nebuchadnezzar. He said to him, that the secret which the king has demanded, the wise men, the astrologers, the magicians, and the soothsayers cannot declare to the king. But there is a God in heaven who reveals secrets, and he has made known to you King Nebuchadnezzar what will be in the latter days. Your dream, and the visions of your head upon your bed, was these, as for you, O king, thoughts came to your mind while on your bed, about what would come to pass after this, and he who reveals secrets has made known to you what will be. However, as for me, this secret has not been revealed to me because I have more wisdom than anyone living does, but for our sakes who make known the interpretation to the king, and that you may know the thoughts of your heart. You, O king, were watching, and behold, a great image, whose splendor was excellent, stood before you, and its form was awesome. This image's head was of fine gold, its chest and arms of silver, its belly and thighs of bronze, its legs of iron, its feet partly of iron and partly of clay. You watched while a stone was cut out without hands, which struck the image on its feet of iron and clay and broke them in pieces. Then the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver, and the gold were crushed together, and became like chaff from the summer threshing floors. The wind carried them away so that no trace of them was found, and the stone that struck the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. This was the dream. Now Daniel will tell King Nebuchadnezzar the interpretation of it. You, O king, are a king of kings, for the God of heaven has given you a kingdom, the kingdom of Babylon, power, strength, and glory, and wherever the children of men dwell, or the beasts of the field and the birds of the heaven, he has given them into your hand, and has made you ruler over them all. You are this head of gold. However, after you will arise another kingdom inferior to yours, the Medo-Persian kingdom, then another, a third kingdom of bronze, the kingdom of Greece, which will rule over all the earth, and the fourth kingdom will be as strong as iron, inasmuch as iron breaks in pieces and shatters everything, and like iron that crushes, that kingdom will break in pieces and crush all the others. This will be the kingdom of Rome. Whereas you saw the feet and toes, partly of potter's clay and partly of iron, the kingdom of Rome will be divided into 10 kingdoms, yet the strength of the iron will be in it, just as you saw the iron mixed with ceramic clay, and as the toes of the feet were partly of iron and partly of clay, so the kingdom of Rome will be partly strong and partly fragile. As you saw iron mixed with ceramic clay, they, demonic angels, will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not adhere to one another, just as iron does not mix with clay. During the ministry of Jesus, he healed many that were demon-possessed and afflicted with demons. This was one of the reasons he came. He came to destroy the works of the devil. We saw these demonic angels mingling with the seed of men, and over again Jesus was casting out demons from men because they could not adhere to one another, just as iron does not mix with clay. Jesus came to set captives free. It was before the coming of Jesus, man had no hope. But when he, the promised Messiah came, a man or woman no longer had to be in bondage to the slavery of demons as it was before his coming. The kingdom of God had come. Jesus said, "If I cast out demons by the Spirit of God, surely the kingdom of God has come upon you. It will be in the days of these kings the God of heaven will set up a kingdom which will never be destroyed, and the kingdom will not be left to other people. His kingdom will break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it will stand forever. Inasmuch as Nebuchadnezzar saw that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it broke in pieces the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great God has made known to the king what will come to pass after this. The dream is certain, and its interpretation is sure. When King Nebuchadnezzar heard this, he fell on his face, prostrate before Daniel, and commanded that they should present an offering and incense to him. The king said to Daniel, "Truly your God is the God of gods, the Lord of kings, and a revealer of secrets, since you could reveal the secret." Then the king promoted Daniel and gave him many great gifts, and he made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon, and chief administrator over all the wise men of Babylon. In addition, Daniel petitioned the king, and he set Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego over the affairs of the province of Babylon, but Daniel sat in the gate of the king. Then Nebuchadnezzar declared the signs and wonders that the Most High God had worked for him. How great his signs, and how mighty his wonders! His kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and his dominion is from generation to generation. Nebuchadnezzar's second dream. I, Nebuchadnezzar, was at rest in my house, and flourishing in my palace. I saw a dream which made me afraid, and the thoughts on my bed and the visions of my head troubled me. Therefore, I issued a decree to bring in all the wise men of Babylon before me, that they might make known to me the interpretation of the dream. The magicians, the astrologers, the Chaldeans, and the soothsayers came in, and I told them the dream, but they did not make known to me its interpretation. But at last Daniel came before me. His name is Belteshazzar, according to the name of my God, in him is the Spirit of the Holy God, and I told the dream before him, saying, Belteshazzar, chief of the magicians, because I know that the Spirit of the Holy God is in you, and no secret troubles you, explain to me the visions of my dream that I have seen, and its interpretation. These were the visions of my head while on my bed. I was looking, and behold, a tree in the midst of the earth, and its height was great. The tree grew and became strong, its height reached to the heavens, and it could be seen to the ends of all the earth. Its leaves were lovely, its fruit abundant, and it was food for all. The beasts of the field found shade under it, the birds of the heavens dwelt in its branches, and all flesh was fed from it. I saw in the visions of my head while on my bed, and there was a watcher, a holy one, coming down from heaven. He cried aloud and said thus, Chop down the tree and cut off its branches, strip off its leaves and scatter its fruit. Let the beasts get out from under it, and the birds from its branches. Nevertheless, leave the stump and roots in the earth, bound with a band of iron and bronze, in the tender grass of the field. Let it be wet with the dew of heaven, and let him graze with the beast on the grass of the earth. Let his heart be changed from that of a man, let him be given the heart of a beast, and let 7 times pass over him. 7 years pass over. This decision is by the decree of the watchers, and the sentence by the word of the holy ones, in order that the living may know that the Most High rules in the kingdom of men, gives it to whomever he will, and sets over it the lowest of men. This dream I, King Nebuchadnezzar, have seen. Now you, Belteshazzar, declare its interpretation, since all the wise men of my kingdom are not able to make known to me the interpretation, but you are able, for the Spirit of the Holy God is in you. Daniel interprets the second dream. Daniel was astonished for a time, and his thoughts troubled him. The king told him to not let the dream, or its interpretation, trouble him. However, Daniel said, May the dream concern those who hate you, and its interpretation concern your enemies. Daniel did not want this to happen to Nebuchadnezzar, and wished it was an interpretation for Nebuchadnezzar's enemies. The tree that you saw, which grew and came strong, whose height reached to the heavens, and which could be seen by all the earth, whose leaves were lovely and its fruit abundant, in which was food for all, under which the beasts of the field dwelt, and in whose branches the birds of the heaven had their home, it is you, O king, who have grown and become strong, for your greatness has grown and reaches to the heavens, and your dominion to the end of the earth. And inasmuch as the king saw a watcher, a holy one, coming down from heaven and saying, Chop down the tree and destroy it, but leave its stump and roots in the earth, bound with a band of iron and bronze in the tender grass of the field, let it be wet with the dew of heaven, and the beasts of the field, till 7 times pass over him, 7 years. This is the interpretation, O king, and this is the decree of the Most High which has come upon my lord the king. They shall drive you from men, your dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field, and they shall make you eat grass like oxen. They shall wet you with the dew of heaven, 7 times, 7 years, shall pass over you till you know that the Most High rules in the kingdom of men and gives it to whomever he chooses. And inasmuch as they gave the command to leave the stump and roots of the tree, your kingdom shall be assured to you, after you come to know that heaven rules. Therefore, O king, Daniel said, let my advice be acceptable to you, break off your sins by being righteous, and your iniquities by showing mercy to the poor. Perhaps there may be a lengthening of your prosperity. The fulfillment of the dream. All this came to pass upon King Nebuchadnezzar. At the end of the 12 months, he was walking about the royal palace of Babylon. The king spoke, saying, Is not this great Babylon, that I have built for a royal dwelling by my mighty power and for the honor of my majesty? While the word was still in the king's mouth, a voice fell from heaven. King Nebuchadnezzar, to you it is spoken. The kingdom has departed from you. And they shall drive you from men, and your dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field. They shall make you eat grass like oxen, and 7 times, 7 years, shall pass over you, until you know that the Most High rules in the kingdom of men and gives it to whomever he chooses. That very hour the word was fulfilled concerning Nebuchadnezzar. He was driven from men and ate grass like oxen, his body was wet with the dew of heaven till his hair had grown like eagle's feathers and his nails like bird's claws. Nebuchadnezzar was humiliated. Now, at the end of the time, 7 years, I, Nebuchadnezzar, lifted my eyes to heaven, and my understanding returned to me, and I blessed the Most High and praised and honored him who lives forever, for his dominion is an everlasting dominion, and his kingdom is from generation to generation. All the inhabitants of the earth are reputed as nothing, he does according to his will in the army of heaven and among the inhabitants of the earth. No one can restrain his hand or say to him, What have you done? At the same time my reason returned to me, and for the glory of my kingdom, my honor and splendor returned to me. My counselors and nobles resorted to me, I was restored to my kingdom, and excellent majesty was added to me. Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and extol and honor the King of heaven, all of whose works are truth, and his ways justice. The fall of Babylon. After the reign of King Nebuchadnezzar, his son Belshazzar became king, and he was the last Chaldean to rule Babylon before the fall. He received the throne in 550 BC, and the kingdom falls to the Medes and Persians during his reign. Belshazzar the king made a great feast for 1,000 of his lords and drank wine in their presence. While he tasted the wine, Belshazzar gave the command to bring the gold and silver vessels which his father Nebuchadnezzar had taken from the temple which had been in Jerusalem, that the king and his lords, his wives, and his concubines might drink from them. Then they brought the gold vessels that had been taken from the temple of the house of God which had been in Jerusalem, and the king and his lords, his wives, and his concubines drank from them. They drank wine, and praised the gods of gold and silver, bronze and iron, wood, and stone. In the same hour the fingers of a man's hand appeared and wrote opposite the lampstand on the plaster of the wall of the king's palace, and the king saw the part of the hand that wrote. Then the king's countenance changed, and his thoughts troubled him, so that the joints of his hips were loosened, and his knees knocked against each other. The king cried aloud to bring in the astrologers, the Chaldeans, and the soothsayers. The king spoke, saying to the wise men of Babylon, Whoever reads this writing, and tells me its interpretation, shall be clothed with purple and have a chain of gold around his neck, and he shall be the third ruler in the kingdom. Now all the king's wise men came, but they could not read the writing, or make known to the king its interpretation. Then King Belshazzar was very troubled, his countenance was changed, and his lords were astonished. The queen, because of the words of the king and his lords, came to the banquet hall. The queen spoke, saying, O king, do not let your thoughts trouble you, nor let your countenance change. There is a man in your kingdom in whom is the Spirit of the Holy God, and in the days of your father, light and understanding and wisdom, like the wisdom of the gods, were found in him, and King Nebuchadnezzar your father the king, made him chief of the magicians, astrologers, Chaldeans, and soothsayers. Inasmuch as an excellent spirit, knowledge, understanding, interpreting dreams, solving riddles, and explaining enigmas were found in this Daniel, whom the king named Belteshazzar, now let Daniel be called, and he will give the interpretation. Then Daniel was brought in before the king. The king spoke, and said to Daniel, Are you that Daniel who is one of the captives from Judah, whom my father the king brought from Judah? I have heard of you, that the Spirit of God is in you, and that light and understanding and excellent wisdom are found in you. Now the wise men, the astrologers, have been brought in before me, that they should read this writing and make known to me its interpretation, but they could not give the interpretation of the thing. And I have heard of you, that you can give interpretations and explain enigmas. Now if you can read the writing and make known to me its interpretation, you shall be clothed with purple and have a chain of gold around your neck and shall be the third ruler in the kingdom. Then Daniel answered, and said before the king, Let your gifts be for yourself, and give your rewards to another, yet I will read the writing to the king and make known to you the interpretation. O king, the Most High God gave Nebuchadnezzar your father a kingdom and majesty, glory and honor, and because of the majesty that he gave him, all peoples, nations, and languages trembled and feared before him. Whomever he wished, he executed, whomever he wished, he kept alive, whomever he wished, he set up, and whomever he wished, he put down. But when his heart was lifted up, and his spirit was hardened in pride, he was deposed from his kingly throne, and they took his glory from him. Then he was driven from the sons of men, his heart was made like the beasts, and his dwelling was with the wild donkeys. They fed him with grass like oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven, till he knew that the Most High God rules in the kingdom of men and appoints over it whomever he chooses. But you his son, Belshazzar, have not humbled your heart, although you knew this, and you have lifted yourself up against the Lord of heaven. They have brought the vessels of his house before you, and your lords, your wives, and your concubines, have drunk wine from them. And you have praised the gods of silver and gold, bronze and iron, wood, and stone, which do not see or hear or know, and the God who holds your breath in his hand and owns all your ways, you have not glorified. Then the fingers of the hand were sent from him, and this writing was written. And this is the inscription that was written. Mene, Mene, Tekel, Upharsin. This is the interpretation of each word. Mene. God has numbered your kingdom and finished it. Tekel. You have been weighed in the balances and found wanting. Paris. Your kingdom has been divided and given to the Medes and Persians. Then Belshazzar gave the command, and they clothed Daniel with purple and put a chain of gold around his neck and made proclamation concerning him that he should be the third ruler in the kingdom. That very night Belshazzar, king of the Chaldeans, was slain, and Darius the Mede received the kingdom, being about 62 years old. The plot against Daniel. It pleased Darius to set over the kingdom 120 satraps, to be over the whole kingdom, and over these, 3 governors, of whom Daniel was one, that the satraps might give account to them, so that the king would suffer no loss. Then Daniel distinguished himself above the governors and satraps because an excellent spirit was in him, and the king gave thought to setting him over the whole realm. So, the governors and satraps sought to find some charge against Daniel concerning the kingdom, but they could find no charge or fault, because he was faithful, nor was there any error or fault found in him. Then these men said, We shall not find any charge against this Daniel unless we find it against him concerning the law of his God. So, these governors and satraps thronged before the king, and said thus to him. King Darius. All the governors of the kingdom, the administrators and satraps, the counselors, and advisers, have consulted together to establish a royal statute and to make a firm decree, that whoever petitions any god or man for 30 days, except you, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions. Now O king, establish the decree and sign the writing, so that it cannot be changed, according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which does not alter. Therefore, King Darius signed the written decree. Now when Daniel knew that the writing was signed, he went home, and in his upper room, with his windows open toward Jerusalem, he knelt down on his knees 3 times that day, and prayed and gave thanks before his God, as was his custom since early days. Then these men assembled and found Daniel praying and making supplication before his God. And they went before the king and spoke concerning the king's decree according to the law of the Medes and Persians, that could not be changed. When he heard that it was Daniel, he was greatly displeased with himself, and set his heart on Daniel to deliver him, and he labored till the going down of the sun to deliver him. However, the men approached the king and said to the king, "Know, O king, that it is the law of the Medes and Persians that no decree or statute which the king establishes may be changed." Therefore, the king gave the command, and they brought Daniel and cast him into the den of lions, but the king spoke, saying to Daniel, "Your God, whom you serve continually, he will deliver you." Then a stone was brought and laid on the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet ring and with the signets of his lords, so that the purpose concerning Daniel might not be changed. Now the king went to his palace and spent the night fasting, and no musician were brought before him. Also, his sleep went from him. Then the king arose very early in the morning and went in haste to the den of lions. And when he came to the den, he cried out with a lamenting voice to Daniel. The king spoke, saying to Daniel, "Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to deliver you from the lions?" Then Daniel said to the king, "O king, my God sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths, so that they have not hurt me, because I was found innocent before him, and also, O king, I have done no wrong before you." Then the king was exceedingly glad for him and commanded that they should take Daniel up out of the den. So, Daniel was taken up out of the den, and no injury whatever was found on him, because he believed in his God. The king gave the command, and they brought those men who had accused Daniel, and they cast them into the den of lions, them, their children, and their wives, and the lions overpowered them, and broke all their bones in pieces before they ever came to the bottom of the den. King Darius wrote, "To all peoples, nations, and languages that dwell in all the earth, peace be multiplied to you. I make a decree that in every dominion of my kingdom men must tremble and fear before the God of Daniel. For he is the living God, and steadfast forever. His kingdom is the one which shall not be destroyed, and his dominion shall endure to the end. He delivers and rescues, and he works signs and wonders in heaven and on earth, who has delivered Daniel from the power of the lions." So, Daniel prospered in the reign of Darius and in the reign of Cyrus the Persian. Amen. If this video has been a blessing to, please subscribe, like, and share.